Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be beginning to look at the upcoming winter 2025 into 2026, and I will be giving you guys an ENSO update, a ENSO outlook. And as you can tell by the title, we have a neutral, which means no La Nina, no El Nino, something in between, which may seem boring, but it's quite in fact the very opposite. So I want to start off by delving right into the ENSO outlook. So a lot of people that are maybe watching this video already know what ENSO is. However, there may be also a lot of people that have a vague idea of it or simply don't know. And that's okay, because let me explain everything to you. It is not as complicated as it seems. The ENSO refers to the area of ocean between off the coast of Peru, Ecuador, all the way up to Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Australia, and New Zealand. So basically the whole equatorial section of the Pacific Ocean. It is a massive area. And notice right now what I have on this little graphic is the sea surface temperature departures during the last 4 weeks. And this is important because a El Nino or a La Nina are determined whether or not these temperatures of these waters in this area, let me circle it for you guys to have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. In that vague area, whether or not they are above average by a certain degree or below average by a certain degree determine whether or not it is a La Nina, a neutral, or a El Nino. The different phases, El Nino, La Nina, or neutral, have different impacts. So it's very important in determining what is going on, and more importantly, what way these ocean temperatures are going to be headed in the future. As you can see, the temperatures in that area of the waters are neither really above average or below average, which is why we are technically currently classified as a neutral. The next piece of forecasting the Enso region and determining what El Nino, La Nina, or neutral phase we are headed into or what we are in currently is dependent on the regions. And you can see right now what I have pulled up is the different regions. So there's a Nino 4, Nino 3.4, the Nino 3, and a Nino 1+2. And if you can't tell, basically this is the ocean right here on this little graphic. This is Australia, Papua New Guinea, this is South America, Mexico, North America. And here is that stretch of ocean. And you can see it's divided into those different regions. And each one of those different regions are independently measured to determine which ones are warming, which ones are cooling. But the one that is used for determining the actual El Nino, La Nina neutral is the Nino 3.4, the largest section and the one in the middle. The other ones can help with the association with prediction, but also with potentially a modified El Nino or a modified La Nina. Often we call that a El Nino Modokai. So if the Nino 3.4, for example, is very warm, but the outer sections are cooler, then that is an El Nino Modokai. In this case, that's not important, but I do want to focus on the Nino 3.4 region, the most important one. So taking everything that I've mentioned and we've learned, I want to move on to the ONI, the Oceanic Nino Index. This may sound very confusing and very overwhelming, but it's really not. So remember that 3.4 Nino region, right? You can see right here it lists the ONI is based on the sea surface temperature departures from average, so the anomaly, in the Nino 3.4 region. So not the other ones, just that middle big one. And is a principal measure for monitoring, assessing, and predicting the Enso. So the ONI is basically a measurement of the anomaly that is currently occurring in that Nino 3.4 region. And this is important to understand because the official characterization of an El Nino is characterized by a positive ONI that is greater than or equal to half a degree Celsius, while a La Nina is the exact opposite with a negative ONI less than or equal to half a Celsius. So basically that middle region, that Nino 3.4, has to be on average greater than half a degree Celsius above average for it to be an El Nino, and the opposite for a La Nina. And if there's none, then it's a neutral, which is what we are currently in. And notice, in addition to the ONI measurements, for a El Nino or La Nina episode to be officially classified, it has to occur for a certain period of time. And you can see it says right there, must exceed a period of at least 5 consecutive overlapping 3-month seasons. In this case, we're not worried about that because we are heading into a neutral, which means it's neither. And that is basically it. That is all you have to know about the ENSO. For our purpose of today's video and general public understanding, that is essentially everything that goes into a El Nino, La Nina. So hopefully now you understand it. Now, why this matters for our upcoming winter is because we are heading most likely into a neutral, which I've been saying over and over again, and I will explain what that means in just a second based on history. What I wanted to first show you is a historical of the last decade, 12 years essentially, of the different neutral phases, El Nino phases, La Nina phases that have occurred. So notice there was that super El Nino, if you recall, back in 2015 into 2016, where we almost reached a reading of ONI reading of 2.6 across the middle Pacific Ocean, which was crazy, and that's why it was a record one. And inversely, we had a period of from 2020 to 2023 where we had many years of just La Nina after La Nina after La Nina. This next graphic that I'm showing you is very important because it is the official NOAA Climate Prediction Center Enso probability forecast. And you can see there are different bars indicating the neutral La Nina and El Nino and the probabilities that they have occurring within the 3-month seasons that are down below here. So you can see the JJA, that is June, July, August, JAS, July, August, September, October, September, October, November. And as we get closer and closer towards the winter, we see the La Nina chances pretty much equal out with the neutral, which again indicates potentially a neutral leaning towards a weak La Nina. At this point, it is still uncertain exactly how it will unfold, which is why we have to keep an eye on this. But notice that they are favoring a neutral, diminishing a little bit towards the La Nina, and then a neutral coming back. This image that I'm currently showing you is another forecasting tool that we use. It is a set of models this time, so not NOAA's official outlook, that this time show the strength of the ONI. It is a little different because the earlier one was probability based. This one is the actual strength. And there are a lot of models, but focused on these bigger, thicker green and these kind of maroon ones. Those basically are the average of these models, and they, as you could see, show a neutral going towards maybe a weak La Nina around that October-November time frame. Again, here are the months, and then going back towards more of a neutral, true neutral in between. This next graphic I'm showing you is another very important forecasting tool that we use. It is a climate forecasting system version 2 forecast of the same El Nino conditions, except slightly different models. And note it even has the sea surface temperature kind of simulation. Here, if you can see, it shows more and more of that blue color coming in, which would indicate more of a La Nina favoring. And if you take a look at these models, the spaghetti models, they have that black dashed line, the average of all of them. It has it, if you really pay a close attention, it has it dipping below that 0.5 degree negative ONI, which is, as we saw earlier, the characterization of a La Nina. But it would have to stay there for an extended period of time, and through my many years of tracking this particular group of models, amongst the other ones, these ones usually like to be on the more extreme side. If it's an El Nino, it shows a stronger El Nino. If it's a La Nina, it shows a stronger La Nina. So this group of models, it's good. I would definitely not disregard it, but it is the one that tends to show the outliers more. So this one definitely shows a La Nina being more favored as a possibility. In my honest opinion, I think it's a little too excited about the La Nina potential. So in summary, we are looking at a Enso neutral with a potentially weak La Nina developing at some point in the fall and winter, but I should say more La Nina conditions, because in order for it to be an official La Nina, as we saw, it has to extend for a certain period of time. So basically all of that ENSO talk and all of that determining that we have a neutral ENSO means roughly something what I have pulled up on this image. We think typically during a Enso neutral winter see a lot more cold present across the northern United States, warmer and wetter, especially across the southeast, and generally a pattern of variability across the northwest and southwestern Canadian areas, which means it could either be a little bit warmer, a little bit colder, depending on the specific winter and the blocking patterns that's set up. Obviously, since we have the subtropical jet merging with the jet stream somewhere around that mid-Atlantic region, this is very supportive for large systems in that area, nor'easters, and depending on whether or not that cold air goes a little further south, it can also mean a lot of snow or snow potential for the south. The cold across the Midwest and northern United States may keep some of the snowfall amounts a little down across the Midwest or Great Lakes, but again, that really depends on the blocking patterns and the specific setups for that winter. So that is basically it for today, and you may be wondering, okay, this isn't really that much of a delve into the future forecast, and that's correct. I wanted to today just talk about the El Nino, what it means, the neutral, and what is expected this year. And in the future videos, I will be talking more about the impacts for the winter, specifically based on some research that I found in the last few weeks of me doing researching that I think is really exciting and you guys will really like. It delves into historical winters that it's basically a hidden pattern that I've discovered with Enso neutral winters, which hints at a potentially very cold and very snowy winter heading into the United States this upcoming winter. So I will be making videos about that very shortly. In the meantime, I will have to leave you guys in a cliffhanger, as that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.